First panel of the afternoon. So I'm going to be your moderator for a panel about earning incremental revenue from audio ads. So this is about audio ads in games. I'd like to welcome to the stage our panelists who are taking part in this discussion. We should have, I hope, in the room, Sahil Modi from AudioMob, Hazim Al-Hanbali from Madhook, and Sally Makarem from DMS. Do I have my panelists? Hey, there we go. Please come on up. Please do, if anything you want to ask. At the end, I'll put some time aside to ask the audience. But, you know, we're an interactive crowd. If there's anything you want to leap in and ask a question, just put your hand up. I'll try and keep my eyes on it as we go. But I've got plenty of questions of my own to keep things going. So look, here, an alternative to traditional ads, which interrupt gameplay, is audio ads that you could hear. Something, you know, maybe you're familiar with from radio, podcasts. And they're an increasingly valuable option. We've got some experts here, some developers. We've got Sahil from AudioMob, and we're going to talk about this tool as something that brands can use to engage with people who are playing games. So look, to break the ice, I'll begin by asking you to introduce yourself. So let's start here at this end and move down. Please tell us who you are and a few words about your business.
So my name is Hazim Al-Hanbali. I'm CEO and co-founder of Madhook. Madhook is a game development studio that develops casual and mid-core games. We have over 60 million downloads on our portfolio and over 13 live games. That's it.
Great, thank you. Oh, I've got a seat now. And yes, brilliant. That's a great introduction. Go for it.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sahil. I am partnership manager at AudioMob. AudioMob is a pioneering tool in audio ad technologies, and we plan to be the #1 audio ad discovery platform. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for being here. And Sally, yeah, tell us about yourself. Oh.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sally. I work with Digital Media Services. Basically, we represent digital publishers in the region for this region, and one of our partners now is AudioMob.
Perfect, thank you. So we've got some experts here in using audio ads. I'll tell you what, I'm going to come to Hazim first, if I may. Now, I'm right in thinking that you have been an early adopter in using audio ads in Madhook games, and your ads in the MENA region use it. Tell us a little bit about what made you curious about audio adverts as an option. How did you come to use them?
So basically, you need our company depends mainly on ad revenue, so you need to increase that revenue. And with the rise of like user acquisition and the expense of user acquisition, you need to increase LTVs by showing more ads. And let's face it, nobody likes to see a lot of ads. So if there's a new way to show the ads and not to interrupt the gameplay, it's perfect. It's perfect for us, it's perfect for the user, and it's more revenue. So now we are showing like traditional ads and we're showing audio ads at the same time, and the user didn't see any change in the gameplay or didn't get interrupted, which is perfect. And hopefully it will scale more, and we can like one day depend mainly on audio ads, which will be perfect. So that's why.
Perfect. Do you, before I move on to ask another question, do you use it alongside other form of ads? Is it an additional method?
Yeah, currently we are using it as an additional format, yeah.
Yeah, perfect, great, thank you. Sally, that's a question from you as well. DMS Group's been instrumental in brokering some significant deals in the region, and the Al-Hanbali one, for instance, and you've been working in the audio space. So what excites you about audio ads potential? Why did you come to it?
Okay, so I think audio advertising's been around for quite some time, to be very honest. So you think of it way back from radio. But really what's happening with the landscape shifts is just really being, innovated on to come to the digital side, just like everything else that you see in media today. It's a super exciting space just because if you look at what's happening regionally, so I'll bring the focus to MENA a little bit. In Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt as well, you see that there's a lot of investment coming in behind music, there's a lot of investment coming in behind gaming and so forth, and you see that naturally with the increase of audio platforms or audio-enabled or audio ad-enabled platforms, naturally you're going to see that there's going to be a rise in the audio ad space. And as a format, going back to what you were saying, it's a very non-intrusive format. It's something that, especially with ad fatigue, it's a great way to come in and have that conversation with the users in a way that matters to them. So yeah, it's been, I only see that audio will continue to enhance with the more platforms available for it in the region.
Great. And actually, while I've got you, can you tell us a little bit more about that deal? You've got, so Anghami is the deal that you recently brokered. Tell us a little bit what that is. I'm not familiar.
So Anghami is actually the leading streaming app, music leading streaming app in the region. Actually, that's how it started off, but it evolved to be much more than that today. It's very much of a audio brand, because not only do they have the app, it's evolved to becoming more into anything to do with music. So whether it's harnessing talents, having on-ground, shows or concerts, so anything that is to do within that space, they've ventured into that today.
Great, thank you. Now, before I come to Sahil to talk about AudioMob directly, I'm going to come back to Hazim for a moment there. You mentioned about the work that you've been doing there with Madhook. Was there a moment when you realized that this was definitely going to work? What was your first experience of using audio ads in games, and when did it kind of click together for you as the thing that you were going to do?
So basically, one of our games is like an open world game where you drive you are an Uber driver and you deliver stuff.
Right.
And at that point, we didn't have like background music or stuff like that, and we're planning to like make like radio play in the background.
Right.
And when I met AudioMob and they like explained how it worked, and the first thing that I thought about was it fits perfectly for our game, and it's like an audio content for our game that we need to build first, and while they will provide like ads that will be integrated seamlessly in the gameplay experience. So that's it.
That's perfect. I guess that feels so kind of natural, doesn't it? The ambient sound. People are so familiar already with hearing adverts on radios and cars.
Yeah.
You know, it fits. It works in world as well as a concept. Yeah. So Sahil, I've been speaking to the developers first before I come to you. But tell us, from AudioMob's perspective, then, what are the advantages of audio ads? We've spoken a few already, but I'd love to hear it from your perspective. I mean, how do they contribute to the experience of games that's different from the other ads that we're already familiar with?
Oh, thank you for that. So, ever since AudioMob was started, let me go back a little bit on the story of Christian and Wilfred. So they are the founders of the company. And when this was pre-COVID times, and it was kind of clear, everybody knew that these ad formats that we have right now, it brings in the revenue, but there is something that's missing. There is something better that can be done, and that's where the audio ad format came into the picture. But then came the post-IDFA times. People talking about the kind of revenue drops that's gonna happen because of these changes in the policies, and at the same time, you're seeing COVID, which is, completely a new era for people to sort of realize what's going to happen in the time. So at this time, the value for AudioMob was to give incremental revenue to the partners. And the way we wanted to do it was, create a segue for the three key stakeholders, which is advertisers, publishers, and of course the gamers. And how do you do that? You do that with a non-intrusive ad format. Also sort of adding into the existing ad monetization that already exists in the platform. So, with audio ads, you can find unique placements in the games. You don't have to necessarily replace your old formats, but what you're essentially doing is now bringing in a complete new format of revenue. And, we have Sally here who's going to be able to weigh in more on this. It's completely branding advertisement. So we're not a network which is fighting for budgets with the different app install campaigns. We're essentially bringing in completely new revenue to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess as Hazim was saying, if you need to add more ads into your game because that's your revenue stream, you don't want to just make it as a rewarded video ad every 5 minutes. It's something you can add additionally. In fact, I'd like to know a little bit more about the process of implementing audio ads then. In fact, Sally, I'll come to you. What are the kind of key considerations and steps involved for people who are interested in adding audio ads to their games? What do people need to think about, and how do they go about doing it?
Okay, so from a developer point of view, I think that you need to think of a way. Okay, so if I'm looking at it from a developer, it's how would I be able to maximize my revenue through those ads? You need to think of, from an advertiser perspective, what is it that they're looking for, right? So today, what does every advertiser need? They need reach, right? And gaming naturally tends to tick the box on that. They need to be able to target better. So the more info you have, the more you're specific about the genre of the game and so forth, the easier it is for the advertiser to come in and be present on the platform. You need to think about how do they actually like to transact, which is mainly, let's say, programmatically. So have the right partnerships. And once you do, you can come in and plug in for them to be able to transact easier with you. So for a developer, I would say, and of course, definitely goes without saying measurement, right? So how do I actually measure effectiveness of my revenue that I'm giving to this, to this ad space that I'm buying from on that game?
Great. Well, you've raised a few questions that I want to come back to later, but Hazim, I'd like to hear from you as a developer. Yeah, what kind of things do you have to consider when plugging audio ads into your game?
So basically, if we want to say technically, how fast can I implement it? Yeah, which was very fast in the case of AudioMob. The other thing, which is more important, in how I can implement it in the game experience in a way that is suitable for the game and it's not annoying, because at the end of the day, the game has sound, has music, and you are playing another type of sound at the same time, so you need to take care of the overall gaming experience, so the user won't be annoyed by the ad. At the same time, you want to make sure that he's listening to the ad.
No, that's perfect. And again, you've raised a couple of questions there. In fact, Sahil, can I ask you a question? Is there any advice you have, or any evidence there is about the perfect number of audio ads in a game? I mean, you mentioned about the making sure it fits in there organically and so on. What advice do you have for game developers about how best to implement it? I mean, you don't want them just to have constantly ads playing the whole time. What's been the experience so far?
So that's a really good question, because to be honest, the broad answer is it depends.
Right.
But since we are the experts in this, and we kind of understand how important it is for developers, because they've created the game. It's not only monetization science; it's also an art, right? So we have to value their efforts, and the very crucial advice that we give while implementing audio ads is sort of cap it. So for a game session time of 10 minutes, we recommend always capping it to 2 ads or 3 ads per session.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So of course, that's the first step, right? A lot of advertisers, a lot of developers, what they do is they like to do A/B test. Then they create more A/B test of creating higher caps and testing whether that affects the game retention. But when it comes to entry point, and we want to make sure that our developers feel comfortable onboarding a new platform. So we always recommend having just purely 2 to 3 ads for the session.
Right, interesting. Hazim, has that been advice that you've taken on board? Does MadHook basically deliver that many kind of audio ads?
Yes, definitely. We're still in early testing, because the technology is new, and we are iterating and checking the game retention, how it's affected.
Right, interesting. Okay, well, I think we'll be interested to hear how that works out for you. There's one thing I'd like to mention as well at this point, and I guess any of you could answer this, perhaps you've all got different experiences there, is that advertisers care about the audibility of their ad, but developers also care about the audibility of their game, and not all games play at the same level or have the same degree of ambient sound or background sound. People listen in different environments as well. How do you handle things like the audio levels of an ad? Obviously, you're in a very quiet game or something, suddenly something bursts in there. Is there any strategies that people should be aware of when it comes to the volume, that kind of thing, and how things play? Not everyone plays with the sound right up, I don't know. Do you want to give us from AudioMob's perspective, and then I'll...
Yeah, of course. I'd like to take the question first. So, yeah, when it comes to audioability, that's a very key metric, right? Because, here we are, advertisers are spending premium CPMs. And if you are not going to guarantee them that the ad is audible, that's something that's a deal breaker, to be honest. Right. And when it comes to publishers, there's game sounds, different game genre have different volume levels. And like I said, the product was created, the technology was created to sort of manage all the key stakeholders, including the gamers. So what we have is volume detection and audio passback. So these are 2 key technologies that I would like to speak a bit about. So what we do with audio detection is we guarantee our advertisers that if any odd ad impression is created, it is 100% audible. And we sort of have created a benchmark of 30% ad volumes for that. So if the user is below 30%, we have primarily two ad formats, skippable and rewarded. So skippable ads, we don't force it. Only if the user is above 30% of audio, we sort of create a skippable ad. For rewarded, we are actually able to also prompt users to increase the volume if they wish to. So it's, again, very user-driven, non-intrusive in nature. And for the publishers, how we manage that expectation, or the questions that we get generally is, what happens if my user is listening to music in the background? Or what if I'm listening to Spotify, right? So we don't want to break that user flow as well. So that's where comes in audio passback. We're able to seamlessly transition between the ad and the background multimedia. And we're also able to resume the multimedia once the ad is over. So in a sense, the user is going through an ad process without really doing additional clicks or switching the screen. So yeah, that's how we solve that.
That's interesting. And I'm going to come back to something you said there, but I'd like to get Sally's perspective as well. Obviously, you work with audio apps and you've got your partnerships there. Is it a similar challenge to they have there? I mean, how do you deal with the audibility of ads there? How can you rely on people, ads being broadcast at the right sound and that kind of thing? Is it the same experience that AudioMob have?
So on the other platform we represent, it's mainly music and podcasts, so we know that they're listening. So these are tuned in audiences anyway.
They're listening in.
100%. So we really don't think of it, but it was a good learning from AudioMob to actually, have that user prompt at least the 30% audio in order to ensure that somebody's actually hearing the ad, and you only pay for it once it's heard. So.
Yeah, interesting. Actually, I've got a sort of supplementary question that I want to ask. Are there any kind of lessons and advice about the type of audio ads that work very well? I'm sure the answer is always it depends. But like, are there particularly, are there particularly good examples of audio ads? What works really well? Is it voice? Is it music? Is it a certain kind of messaging? Is there a certain kind of length? From a creative perspective, what do people need to know about great ads?
Okay, so I'll start with this one.
Yeah.
One really is keep it concise, right? So the longer the ad is, naturally people tend to not tune in and listen. So I would say duration. So you've got your 15-seconders. You're typically is a good time, as well as think about who you're having that conversation with and what tone do you want to take. So what does your brand want? What kind of emotion do they want to spark? Audio is right inside your ear, right?
Yeah,
so it's
right.
very, very, if I may say, a bit intimate, right? Because somebody is speaking to you. So how would you like to be heard? So are you asking someone to take a break and you want to be preppy? Or are you sending a Mother's Day message and you want to be sentimental? All of that comes to play when you're thinking about audio. So imagine if I tell you today, I want to create an emotion or an action from you, but I'm going to close your eyes. So as an advertiser, you need to really think about, okay, so the dialect, the tone, the messaging that you're going to put through and so forth, and the audience that you're trying to target, basically.
No, that's perfect. Absolutely, I understand that. You've raised something that I do want to ask, but I just want to, first of all, you've raised another question there that I want to ask about actions, but I'm going to come to Hazim first to see if you've got a take on that as well. Do you have the ads that are working inside your games? Do you have any kind of creative advice for advertisers? Do you know what works best inside your games?
I guess my main advice is localize your ad. Yeah, that's important because it's like it's not visual, so you can explain something with visual stuff. It doesn't have to be as localized, but you need it to be localized for video ads to take attention. But when audio, the player is, for example, is playing, so he's focused on something. So you need to drag attention from his hearing. So it must be like very localized.
That's really good advice. Localization is such an important topic anyway, but you're so right. More so when there aren't visual diagrams or something like that can work. So I want to come back to something that a couple of people have raised on this panel so far. Just for me as a non-audio expert, feedback and results and data is important. When there's an audio ad, surely there isn't something you can click on. I can click on a video or a hyperlink in an ad, right? But when you're listening to something on the radio, I can't click on that. So how do you know that someone's taken an action based on your ad? How do you measure that? I don't know who wants to take this first. Do you want to?
So Sahil can answer, but I'll give it first. So basically, there is a banner that appears with that, but it's not an intrusive manner. But when you hear the ad, if you're interested, you can click on it. And some type of ads, you just hear it's like branding ads, so you don't need to click it. It's the same way you listen to ads on the radio.
Right.
I believe there are other types. So you can explain.
I'm really happy with Hazim's answer, to be honest. But just to add on to that, so we do have a very versatile SDK. You can choose to add a banner, but we also give the options to not add a banner, because we really understand the screen state can have no space at all for certain games. So it kind of depends, and we do not push our publishers to, or force their publishers to add a banner or not. But advertisers are always happy to know that, hey, we have a banner and there can be a click-through coming in as well.
I see. That's interesting. And Sally, do you have any thoughts on that?
So one other metric that we look at as well is listen-through rate.
Okay.
So how much of the ad was actually heard. Just like on video, you'd look at the view-through rate. On audio, you can look at the listen-through rate and understand the audibility, how long did they actually spend with your ad, and then on the back of that, you can run other measurement frameworks to kind of see effectiveness of the ad that you're running.
Interesting. Is there a generally accepted amount of time that counts as a listen? Is it just a second or something like that? Or
I think it depends on the creative length as well.
Right,
So
okay.
you'd want them to listen to, I would say at least 50% of the ad. If it is skippable, that's great. If it's non-skippable, then, Or in AudioMob's case, if they redeem the reward, that this is something that they've actually heard start to finish, because they've actually redeemed what...
Got it. We've got plenty of time, and I've got a few more questions, but just a reminder that we'll be taking questions from the audience. So if anyone does have anything they'd like to ask the panel, please feel free to put your hand up, and I'll try and keep an eye on there. And there's any developers in the audience or advertisers that want to know more about this, please do ask. There's a few things that I was going to say. Can I perhaps ask for examples of who's doing this really well? Obviously, Madhook, obviously, but can you maybe point at some campaigns that you've seen that do really well, or some, I know you don't want to give any confidential information, Sahil, but perhaps there are some great examples of either creative or well-placed campaigns, or just great implementation. I'd love to sort of hear some great case studies that maybe we can point people at. I don't know who wants to take that first, but maybe you do.
Yeah, of course, I'll share a very interesting story. So this was a word puzzle game, and turns out we are going to get a very high CPM for this in US, which is $15, by the way. And the way the ad was implemented was there was a very specific ad creative created by the advertiser, which was almost communicating with the user, not non-intrusively, of course. So it was basically a grain bar ad, and it said that, oh, you must be tired playing the word game. So here is a grain bar to quench your energy, something like that. And we did see a very good engagement with that ad, and at the same time, it was almost as if the ad was created or embedded within the game. So we do see that when we create and do experiments like this, we do get advertisers pulling in high CPMs, but at the same time, publishers are super happy because it's something that is not at all breaking the user experience, but probably enhancing it. So that was one experience.
That's great. Who else wants to come in? Do you want to share some examples with us, Hazim, of kind of either great creative or kind of great campaigns or just well-implemented audio ads?
We are still new to this thing. We seriously start testing, so I'm not sure Sahil can share more. Yeah.
Fair enough. That's a good.
It's still new. I'm not sure how many. Are there other companies than AudioMob are doing the same thing? I never heard of another company that is doing audio ads. Are there?
No, of course there are competitors doing it. There are some competitors.
Okay. It's still new.
That's good. And actually, I'll come to Sally on that question in a moment. But actually, if I just stay with you for a moment, how long have you been working with AudioMob?
Now for around 2 months, maybe.
Oh, okay. So it is actually pretty new to you guys. Okay. Yeah. And what was the first step? Did you meet AudioMob at an event like this, or were you looking for a solution?
Actually, we met them in Jordan. Yeah, in Pocket Gamer, and they recontacted us and they visited us again.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great. And so just to advance, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Sally, are there any kind of great case studies or examples you could point at us of great audio ads? Not necessarily even in games. I know your experience is very broad.
So on the gaming front, I would say when you're looking at, for example, they're playing car games and you've got a car brand that comes up, you tend to see that there's that already the audience is interested in that. So you'd see that definitely the performance does enhance. With audio, you've got a lot of great examples of how brands come in and speak to the audiences. So
Right.
some of the ones that are really good as well are, for example, we've had once a brand that came in and personalized ads. So imagine it's like if you're looking at somebody who's an auto enthusiast, you tell them, hey, really, literally, hey, Sally, I know you like cars. Did you see, for example, the latest thing that we've done? And we saw that, for example, drove a lot of engagement as well. So the more you kind of cater to the audience that you're trying to have a conversation with, and with gaming you can, just because you do have that scale and reach, so you can come in and say, this is the type of context I want to be in, or this is the type of audience I want to have a conversation with, and you'll still be able to scale that and reach those audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. You raised an interesting thing there that occurs to me, because I know that it comes up on every panel that we have at one of our Pocket Gamer events, which is AI at the moment. And I will talk a little bit about trends in ads and so on in a moment. Do you see AI impacting the way that audio works? Increasingly, it seems to be that every day text-to-speech and so on gets better. Is AI something that the advertising industry is watching even on the audio side of things?
I mean, I hope they are, but but I think that for now, if I want to look at AI, it can actually be useful to that industry. Think of what it can do for creative and how much quicker it can deliver today. And how much easier it is to customize further, right? We always talk about, precision marketing at scale, right? At the point it trended. But I mean, honestly, how much creative can you actually create? So if you have somebody coming in and it's not somebody actually, something coming in and doing that on your behalf, then why not? I would say embrace it.
I think it impacts anything. Are there any other kind of trends in advertising or audio ads that we should be mindful of? What are you observing in the year ahead? What should people be mindful of?
Well, honestly, I'm super excited about the industry right now because, as Ali mentioned, there's just a ton of possibilities that is available. With the AI generative as well, there's so much coming in. I mean, just think about it, Dave. Like, let's say we have some contextual data, whether you are at home or whether you're outside in the daylight, and if you're able to sort of tune the audio ad to either whisper it or shout it out excitedly, it changes everything for the users, right? And again, like I so agree with Sally when she said that it's kind of an intimate experience, right? Brands and their tones, they kind of relate to you. At some point, your favorite brand and tunes actually make you, it triggers an emotion within you. So, and I was sitting for some panels, and the interesting panel by a member who mentioned that we like to track the rage, the peace, the wins, and imagine if you're able to sort of integrate audio ads, endorsements in those kind of moments in the game. It's kind of a game changer, and right now we're just starting. So. Yeah, I'm super excited about the trend.
Yeah, and I think you said it. Even today, like the importance of the sound of the brand. I don't even need to speak, but if I tell you ta-ra-ta-ta-ta, immediately you're going to tell me exactly, right? So it's actually quite. I think that there's a lot of ways that brands can come in today and explore audio, and if it's done correctly, there's a lot of power behind it. Jingles have been around for the longest time as well. It's always been, what does your brand sound like? So, and it's pretty powerful once you actually crack that, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. The sound of what I've heard called a sonic logo, but that kind of audio thing is very, very powerful. In fact, my understanding is that Netflix, who have that, when it comes up and it has that thing, they even call their own internal conference the Tudum, don't they now? I think because of the sound of the thing. So on that, let me ask another question just about brands then, and brands and games. Obviously, where a brand, to a brand, where it appears in a game is very important to it. It's very protective of its brand. And similarly, if you're a developer, you want your game to have the best, to be presented in the best light. How does AudioMob go about making sure that that brands feel safe in where they're placed, and that developers can place adverts in the right place? How does that matchmaking go about so that everyone feels comfortable with the experience?
Great question, Dave. So brand safety is super important to us. And having said that, at the moment, there are certain genre of ads that we do not even entertain. So we kind of guarantee our publishers that there is a certain level of brand safety that is always guaranteed. And at the same time, we have our own consent management platform. So we are also COPA compliant. So at the same time, we ensure that these are the things that we promise our publishers. And something that's coming out, it's very exciting, that's coming out in this quarter is creative review. So our publishers are going to be able to see what kind of ads are actually being played. If it might not just be a brand safe related issue. Maybe it's an ad that's not adding value to the game, right? So we'll be able to sort of do that kind of a matchmaking for publishers. I mean, we do it for advertisers. Why not do it for publishers as well?
Interesting. That's great. Sally, do you have any kind of take on that or experience of that? The best way to, brand safety, I guess, is the question.
I mean, for brand safety, I think, again, it depends on how you target, right? So you can actually look at the context. You can look at the age. So with AudioMob, you have so many different targeting layers that you can include or even exclude. And for any reason, you don't want a certain association with anything, right? It doesn't have to be not brand safe. It could be that a brand, doesn't want to speak to anybody who's a mom for whatever reason it is. You can start to exclude that as well. And you can choose where you want to appear, and I think that should actually tick the box for them. I don't think today, I know that a lot of brands come in and say, I don't know if I'm a gaming kind of a brand, but if you look at the audience of gaming today and how huge it is, right? So I think it's the second largest after web browsing. 3 billion people are, gamers today globally, and locally you've got a massive representation in MENA. I don't think that you can come in and say you're not into gaming. You need to look at gaming as just any other media of targeting or reaching audiences, really. Yeah. And you just need to figure out what would be the right context in doing so, and who do you want to have a conversation with, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? As we've seen at previous events and on previous panels, even here today, games is by far the biggest medium in the world. It's TV and movies combined, and it competes. Asking a brand that isn't thinking about advertising in games is missing out completely. Everyone plays game, particularly a younger generation, as we saw this morning. Generation Alpha, they're being raised with a game controller in their hands. So if you ever want to reach those people, not necessarily now, but in the future, games is of course a way to reach them. We've got plenty of time left. There's a question from the audience. I will run out with my microphone. How about that? Carefully, so as not to fall to my death. Hold on. We've got all the mics in use. Hold on. Oh, look who it is.
Thanks. In games, you only have like a limited amount of time to show an ad to the player during gameplay. So often it comes between video or audio to show them an ad. How do you find the eCPMs compare between video and audio in your games?
So I'll take this. That's a very good question. Thank you. So if I was talking about US market, the video CPMs, if I'm 100% sure, it's kind of in the range of $40 to even $100, right? You could be looking at an audio CPMs to be around $10 to $15. And there's quite a difference between the CPMs, and hence we always recommend implementing an audio ad as an incremental placement. So you find those kind of placement where it's kind of difficult to add a video ad. So yeah.
Interesting, thank you. Thanks for your question, Jack. Do we have any other questions from the audience for our panelists? At the back there, thank you. Hold on. I'll come round.
Hi there, thank you. That was a great panel, by the way. Thank you all up there. I guess my question's targeted mostly at you, Sally. And when thinking about how advertisers, you talked about addressability, targeting, and then also COPPA compliance and GDPR compliance and all that. And sometimes that's a balance, right? With the IDFA apocalypse that we all went through a couple years ago, you wind up having to have a trade-off between reach and addressability. So how do brand advertisers think about that trade-off? And are they looking more for reach or more for a kind of narrow addressability, or both, or neither?
I think that I'm going to say some advertisers, okay, so brand safety is top of mind for, I would say, at least in this region, all advertisers that I've worked with, right? So this is something that ranks very, very high with them. If we're looking at gaming as a whole, so mobile gaming, it's quite, you can come in, choose the genre and whatever it is. But if we look at gaming outside of mobile and we look at console or PC, and we're looking at some of the top played games, they tend to be, I don't know, aggressive in nature probably, right? This is where the advertiser needs to then come in and decide, right? So you've got some brands that this is actually okay because they understand that their audience is there and they're ready to take that step forward. And honestly speaking, from what we've seen, we've not heard negative reactions because the game is Fortnite or so forth. If you're looking at the mobile gaming space, I think it's so massive. Really, it is really big. So I think that the last stat I checked, and you can correct me, don't worry if I'm wrong about this, but in Saudi Arabia alone, we look at 4 billion impressions on a monthly basis. 4 billion impressions on a monthly basis means you can actually come in and really design your campaign around the metrics that you decide to, because there is that scale and reach. Again, going back to today, advertisers really need to think about coming into the space, because obviously it's that grand, and this is where audiences across different age groups, so you've got your Gen Alpha, but also on mobile gaming, you've got the moms, you've got their children and so forth, they're all present there. So you're gonna have to try to figure out the trade-off, I think, as a brand.
Great, thank you. Great question. I don't know, does anyone else want to take that question as well, or maybe?
Well, I can just add a couple of things to address the addressability in terms of from a publisher standpoint. So our technology, when we talk to publishers, we do tell them about this, how addressability can add benefits to them, but at the same time, following the GDPR policies, we drop all kind of identifiers in these geos. So like Sally said, there's a trade-off happening. The campaign design can vary from regions to regions, and we just find a best mix. It's just that the volume is so high and the scalability is so high that it is guaranteed to return some sort of a data which enables advertisers to decide what to do next.
Great, thank you. Do we have any more questions for our panel? We've still got plenty of time left. So if anyone does have a question, please do put your hand up. This would be, I guess since we've got some time and we've got you here, this would be a great opportunity for us to talk a little bit about what you're working on next. So let's look to the future. Hazim, on Madhook Games, tell us a little bit about what your plans are for the rest of the year. You've been working on audio for with AudioMob for a couple of months. Tell us what you're working on next. It doesn't necessarily specifically have to be about audio, but we'd love to know a little bit more about your business and your plans.
So basically, currently we're trying to maximize the ad revenue. So we have like audio ads and we have like in-game ads, which appears on the 3D art inside the game. Because now everything is like moving to metaverse and Web3 and stuff like that. And these kinds of ads like can be integrated seamlessly in the game without disrupting the gaming experience. And we are like building more games, and we're targeting more countries, and we're expanding our portfolio.
Great, thank you. And what's your, if you like, your mission here at GameExpo Dubai? Are you looking for partners? Are you looking for?
Basically, we are looking for like different kind of opportunities, because when you attend such conferences, you will be surprised that, for example, I never heard of like audio ads until I met Sahil and Pocket Gamer in Jordan. Yeah. So that's it.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly. The serendipitous meetings. I'll come to you, AudioMob, in a second. But Sally, yeah, what's next for you folks? And you've had some impressive partnerships you've already spoken about. But what's your roadmap ahead?
So on gaming, this is This is a part of the MS that we're trying to continue to grow. AudioMob is a key partner of ours. We've also have other ones that we're trying to onboard because we understand, how much the gaming space is, expanding. And we're also looking to sports, marketing, and so forth. So basically, anything that you see, and naturally, governments are investing behind heavily, you kind of want to make sure that you scale that up because naturally you see that there's a lot of advertising dollars will start to shift to that space within this region.
Great. Thank you. And yes, Sahil, on AudioMob, what's your plan for going forward?
Well, my plan is we are definitely looking for more publishers, fast movers like Hazim from Madhook. And why it's necessary for us at this moment is we are doing some really exciting deals. In US, we just announced a deal with Cats Media. And there are some more deals that are getting worked on in India and LATAM region, and which only means that we have such oversubscription of demand. It is imperative that we build on the supply side. Looking forward to that.
Great, thank you. And I've got another forward-looking question for you, but yeah, this is an interactive session in our last. We've got less than 10 minutes now, so I don't want anyone to miss a chance to ask a question. So if anyone does have a question they'd like to ask, just put their hand up. Thanks.
Hi there. One thing that sort of strikes me is that we're part of Steel Media is now part of Enthusiast Gaming, and they do a lot of work with brands, bring brands into games, and there's still a massive gap between brands understanding games and wondering how to get into games, and they're a bit scared about being in game or being on influence channels or whatever. Is audio advertising an opportunity? Because they're already spending money on podcasts. What difference did it kind of make if they move that from there to there? Do you think that's an opportunity to really bring brands more into the game space in a way that they kind of understand already?
Obviously, if they've already have audio assets, it makes it easier to transition that into any audio format. Again, it just goes back into looking at so to a lot of brands, gaming is scary, but really, it's also explaining to them that it's about the audience that they're trying to target, really. So if I'm looking to speak to a mom, if I speak to her through AudioMob or if I speak to her through any other audio platform, and you have that asset, then why not? I think that audio in general has a long way to go, and I think that now with more platforms unlocking opportunity for audio will naturally start to grow in terms of format chosen to have a conversation with the audience.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to that as well?
I believe brands doesn't have a choice because let's face it, people, I believe, spend more time playing games than watching TV and other platforms. So if they are smart enough, they should move faster to these platforms through audio ads or other type of ads. Yeah.
Did you have a perspective on that?
Just want to back that up, right? Mobile games is an entertainment channel. And guess who found that trend first? Netflix. They themselves are an entertainment channel, and they knew that they had to pivot to games because it just appeals to such a large audience. From a funnel perspective, I think 40 to 50% of internet-connected users in MENA region are already accessing mobile games in some format or the other. And the major education piece, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, of course, with brands is that it's not that typical persona of a person, sitting with a can of Red Bull playing games. It's actually moms, sons, dads, and pretty much every persona that we can think of who's playing games during their day. I think which pretty much all the panel has been talking about from the morning. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, mobile phones have turned everyone into a gamer, even if they don't call themselves that. Does anyone else have another question? Please put your hand up. If not, I'll just ask one of mine. As we kind of reach the final moments, I guess, of the panel, I'd like to ask you. Let's say we're back here again in a year's time. This is our first one of our conferences in Dubai, but let's say we're back here again in a year's time. We're kind of, with this panel, introducing to many developers in the audience, I suspect, the idea of ads, of audio ads in games. What would you like people to be about in a year's time? What would you like this conversation to be about? Can you cast your mind forward and you're here in this panel again, and people, this isn't the first time everyone's hearing about it. What are your kind of hopes for this sector in the year ahead? Sahil, let's start with you.
So in a year's time, I'm looking at the audience where there are monetization experts who are managing a waterfall, perhaps in audio ads, maximizing the revenue, and from a brand side, a lot of advertisers who are managing maybe 30% to 40% of their audio budgets in totality of their media spend. So that's the kind of future I'm envisioning, where the market is mature and people are really sort of now towards the optimization of that per se.
Great answer. Sally, what's your take? You're back here in a year's time. We'll do Dubai again, and more people are aware of it. What's your hope for the conversation about audio ads?
I mean, I would say having more best use cases, so increased adoption. I would say for us to come in and talk about really learnings or further measurement, new ways or how new tech is empowering that space. Hoping that the adoption would be at a year, but okay, adoption is is higher.
Yeah, exactly. A year's a long time in the games industry, right? And of course, Hazim on Madhook. What's your take? You will have you back on stage in a year's time here in Dubai. What's your hope for this? You're only sort of 2 months into this relationship.
So
but
let's hope when we come back in a couple of years, audio ads will become as strong as video and other type of ads, which means way more revenue for us developers, hopefully. So instead of like adding audio as an incremental ad revenue stream, it will be like a core part of the ad revenue, hopefully.
Perfect, makes sense. Well, if anyone has any questions that they haven't wanted to ask here, I know it can be difficult to put your hands up in front of a crowded room. I suggest that they find you on Meet to Match. All three of you are on Meet to Match, worth checking out. I know, Matt Hook, you're on the show floor as well. You have a booth there. And so, people hopefully will be able to seek you out and ask you questions. So I think we'll leave it there. A round of applause, please, for Sahil Modil, Hazim Al-Hanbali, and Sally Makarem. And thank you very much for your panel today.